deal, but he doesn't have to put all the rest of this weird stuff in there.
No. If he would talk a lot less, things would be a lot better.
Yeah, yeah. But maybe he thinks that the people like that.
But he seems to be one person who has to think out loud. He just doesn't seem to be able to think any other way.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting because he, I think, is been carefully groomed for this position, number one, because they all are. You need to give that book to they're probably all messed up, Lisa. I'm sure.
Year 3, right?
Sure. Whatever you want me to be. And out of the darkness, this is an individual who was raised by Satan. Literally, Satan bounced him on his knee. And the demon spirits were whispering in his ear his whole life. And drank human blood since he was a baby, all this stuff.
Trump?
No. This individual. But he knew all of these people in power. He didn't name any names, but he says they're all there. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is when you look at like Jones, what's that guy's, the controversial radio talk show guy, Alex Jones.
Oh, Alex, yeah.
He did the video of the Bohemian Groves up there in California, and it was people like Ronald Reagan, Newt Gingrich. There was all these people that were sacrificing effigies to the owl.
Right.
And you know, when we look at how, and these are all conservative Republicans that are doing this stuff, right? These are the ones that are siding with the evangelicals.
Hold that thought for a second. Do you know that the owl is on our $1 bill?
Yeah.
And it's so small you can barely see it.
Yeah, it's there. Right
But
there at the corner
it's
of the
like
one.
Symbolically putting it on our money.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, so to say that somebody made it to power without going through the proper grooming stages is ignorant. Once you learn the structure and how it actually works and how ingrained it is, the Fall of the Cabal actually talks a little bit about this as well. Some of it gets a little conspiratorial. You got to filter out. I mean, you got to eat the watermelon, spit out the seeds, start talking about lizard people and weird stuff like that. But now, there was something that Walter Veith talked about, and this was a personal experience that he had, where a baboon was breaking in and eating the food in the building, right? And somebody waited and waited for this baboon, shot the baboon, and the baboon ran off. They followed the blood trail only to find a dead man at the end of the blood trail. And so these are some of the things that he's witnessed through his life. So Walter. You need to listen to his testimony. It's incredible.
Yeah, I've listened to a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear that.
Yeah. So these weird things that we don't understand, Satan is able to do these things. I don't know how he does them. But the shape-shifting and stuff like that, you know. Demons are able to live inside of people and to be able to transform people somehow, at least visually. I don't know if it's more than that. It
talks about it in the Bible.
Yeah.
I mean, how many demons were in some people?
Yeah, exactly. Legions.
It just reinforces in my mind how close we have to stay to Jesus, because we're no match for that kind of stuff.
Whoa, no, we're not.
No, you can't hold a candle.
And God is ultimately in control. And like you say, people do get groomed up for certain positions, but if God doesn't want them there, they won't be.
That's right.
It's ultimately going to be someone that he can work his will through.
Now, Ruth is peeling back the onion a little bit here, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
so
but
now,
that's what we have to focus on, is what God can do.
Yeah.
These other things, while they're powerful compared to us, they're not powerful compared to God.
Well, now Ellen White made a statement that she said that we don't often enough talk about the power of Satan. That's a weird thing to say, right? That's a weird thing. Ellen White.
Oh, well.
Yeah. In fact, the first time I heard that is in a sermon that Ivor Myers preached. And so the sermon was about the power of Satan. And he's always, that guy always trips me out, because he would always preach stuff that was like on the edge. And I kind of liked it. I kind of liked always being on the edge, because you're like, oh, is this heresy? What's going on here? I've never heard this before.
Watch out what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know, so he'd get you to thinking, he'd get your brain working, you know? And then, of course, he read all the quotes and stuff. And, you know, the Bible talks a lot about Satan. It does. It lends credence to the abilities of Satan. And so, to Ruth's point, like, we should probably only focus on Satan maybe 1/50th of what we focus on Jesus. But we do need to acknowledge what he can do and how he's going to do it, because we can't just walk around ignorant of all of these things. And
We can't be complacent about it, but we need to constantly reinforce in our minds the fact that our only defense against it is Jesus. There is no other defense against Satan except Jesus.
And that's it. Jesus has defeated the foe. He's a defeated foe.
Mm-hmm.
Now the snake has had its head cut off, and as you all know, we bury the head of the snake because somebody can step on it. I mean, that's what our dad always told us, right? We have to cut the head off the snake and then bury it so somebody doesn't later step on it and get harmed by it. And then the snake is still writhing about, its nerves. But this is the image that we're given of Satan. So he's still very dangerous, even though he's defeated. And really the only antidote to this dangerous serpent is Jesus.
And it's all based around deception.
Yeah. Pull your mic up.
Oh,
This is the podcast, baby.
it is.
This is.
Whoa.
I like it.
We got it going.
Yeah.
No, but
Well, we kind of started a new chapter on the book. We don't have the book with us, so
Ricky has it.
Ricky has it. Yeah, so we're just kind of just going, winging it. The best podcasts are just spontaneous, so they're just conversations. That's all they are.
Where
Yeah.
were we in the book when we left off?
I think we just finished spiritual,
deception.
something like that. And so we were starting kind of the next chapter.
Kind of what we've been talking about even.
Just very much what we're talking about, actually.
Led by the Spirit, eh?
Did you see the sermon that we're going to have today?
I didn't see the
Very
title.
important.
Is that Tom?
Consulting mediums.
Who's giving it?
Tom?
Tom, consulting.
Oh yeah, I'm
Whoa.
doing the scripture and it's on the Witch of Endor.
Oh, that the word medium is an interesting word, right?
Yeah. Something that's between two other things.
That's right. But where do we most commonly hear that word being spoken?
The UN.
No, think about it. It's a very common word. We use it all day long. Media.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? Now, that's an interesting word they gave that, isn't it? The media. They just leave off a little bit, but the word means the same thing. Now, entertainment is another interesting word. To enter in and to detain.
You can waste a lot of
That's a
time on
little frightening,
entertainment.
isn't it?
Yeah. And pick the other thing. Channeling.
Channeling is thank you. This is, when you're going through the channels. And so all of these are occultic words that we have, that have been given
Hollywood.
to entertainment. And Hollywood, of course, we know, if you read the Harry Potter series, which I have not, I've been told that Harry Potter wields a wand made of Hollywood. And the wand has the capability of inducing hypnosis.
I was listening last night to a sermon talking about how people today condemn the Romans for their violence and all the stuff that went on in the Colosseum and all this kind of thing. He said, but they don't think about the fact that so many of us spend our time watching the same kinds of things on television and in movies.
Yeah.
And we think that we're more righteous than the Romans because we aren't actually in the arena with what's going on. But we're getting the same adrenaline high, the same emotions. I mean, we're no different.
It's blood sport.
Yeah.
And even if, there's baseball, football, basketball, boxing, now they have UFC, and so everything is about our entertainment over who can gain the superiority over the other. Now, the book she's reading, Out of the Darkness, gets kind of graphic about what sports and the meanings of them actually are. They date way back to Babylonian times, and they're all fertility rites. And if you think about it, there's the ball, there's the goal, there's, I don't have to get into too much detail, but it's, and everything has a meaning to it. And now, of course, we get all kind of emotionally involved in these things, and people are cheering for their team, and they get,
What was Satan's purpose in introducing this in the world?
Sports?
Nothing happens here without him being involved with
Well,
it.
that's right. Don't we have to ask that question, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, what is he expecting, as his advantage to gain by sports? I mean, have you ever seen cage fighting?
It says
Oh, that's my favorite.
That is
It's brutal.
animalistic.
It is.
It's crazy. If there was no referee there, the person would be killed.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just like Rome.
Yeah, just like
Just like Rome.
Yeah.
And Satan gains something out of that. He's basically channeling his evil character into your brain
yeah.
by the fact that you're watching it.
Yeah. Well, it's a transfer of, like you said, character. So when we're watching this stuff, we internalize that. We become what we behold.
Mm-hmm.
And if we behold violence, and all of a sudden we can't figure out why we're a violent person.
Well,
Yeah.
Hollywood feeds us the line that it's just make believe. Everybody knows it's make believe, so it has no effect on them.
Nobody got hurt. We're all walking home.
Right.
Yeah. You
but
know.
yet people spend millions of dollars on advertising because they know that what people see on TV influences them.
And you know
You
what's
can't have
interesting?
it both ways.
Trump is heavy into boxing and stuff like that. He even has those shows at his Trump Towers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
He loves the UFC. The UFC fighters always that John Jones went over there and shook his hand after he defeated Stipe Miocic and all of the different fighters that are victorious always jump over the cage and they greet Trump, and Trump is totally in on it. And so there's an indication of where he's at right there. Now I know a lot of people are going to disagree probably listening to this, especially if you're secular, but you have to really look at the nuts and bolts of what's really going on here. Yeah. There's a series called Controller that's done by Little Light Studios. It's kind of an older series, but it talks about video games too, and how we're in charge of the people. Now Satan has just taken us and putting them in the position of what he's in. And it's, you can die 1,000 times. There's no consequence.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, Grand Theft Auto, you pull people out of the car, you shoot them, you kick them, you do whatever. You drive off, you crash into police cars, and you do whatever. It's like a free-for-all. Ruth,
I'm trying to think. It was a state of unreality. So they're actually escaping to an unreality place.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, yeah. And the consequences, the lack thereof, is significant. These video games are extremely violent. I remember, when her and I were still kind of living in the world, we would rent this video game from across the street, and there was this game called Resident Evil, and it was like this ominous, like it was full of zombies and stuff, and
I didn't like renting it then.
and it was like all the suspense, and and you're opening doors, you don't know what's behind the door, and it goes from that to these other games where literally all you do is just shoot and kill people the entire time.
My brother, his favorite game is Empire Earth.
Empire Earth?
Yeah. You can choose Earth's history wherever you want to be. Stone Age, 2001: A Space Odyssey on the other end of the spectrum. And the whole idea is to dominate and take over and kill.
Wow.
In each portion of our history. And I'm like, that turns you on? And he says, oh, it's fun. It's all just fun. It's just zeros and ones.
But isn't that what Satan's been doing from the beginning?
Yeah. Yeah,
Trying
literally.
to take over everything and dominate and
He's training
we're
up his
such
subjects.
willing
Parties.
participants in it.
Well, and dig this. Okay, so Satan's a mastermind, right? He knows that not everybody's going to fall for the propaganda in these games or the psychological effect. But if you introduce this to millions of people,
Especially when they're young.
and then you're going to throw some drugs in there, and then you're going to throw some rock and roll music and some grunge rock or some acid rock. What do they call it now?
Scream.
Like
They call it Scream.
literally Scream? Yeah. You introduce all this stuff, and this hateful rap music and stuff. And there's a percentage of children that are going to respond like really negatively to it. And we're seeing this a lot in school shootings and you know, the way the kids are behaving nowadays. And they just have this disconnect where there's zero empathy. They have zero empathy. And they're saying like
Desensitized.
on the battlefield, see back in 1940, it was hard to get a man to point a gun at another man
And shoot him.
and shoot him. That was a real hard thing to do. When they were training soldiers back then, they were trying to tear them down and rebuild them back into a soldier, into a killer is what they're trying to make them. But the percentage of actual killers was not really that high. When you look at the percentage of actual U.S. soldiers that would go out there and actually point their I mean, testimonies prove it. There was a lot of soldiers that would just point at the ground, they would point in the air, and they would just shoot in different directions. They couldn't bring themselves to shoot another human being. Nowadays, it's all different. These kids have no problem whatsoever. None whatsoever.
You know what's interesting? You go on YouTube, and you know we're at war around the world right now. Okay, in the United States, I mean, you've got all of that stuff over in the Middle East. You've got all of the Russia stuff. You've got Taiwan hanging on, you know, a thread for war. And you go to YouTube, and the free movies are all World War II reruns. I mean, it's just any kind of a war that you want to look at is given to you free, and normally it's not, but it is now. They're using the internet and YouTubes to get you fired up and desensitized to killing, and they're using it as a tool right now.
Yeah, they sensationalize it. I mean, you know, all the young, well, you know, kids in the 40s signed the draft and signed up to go into combat for different reasons than they do now. I mean, there was a patriotism that really did exist. I just read a story on Facebook about he was 14 years old when he signed up to fight in World War II and became a decorated soldier on top of that. And it was 16 when they found out how old he was. And then they honorably discharged him. And then 2 years later, he re-enlisted to fight at the end of the war. I mean, there's a patriotism there. There's a purpose for why he was doing what he was doing.
He was decorated. Don't forget that part. He was honored.
Oh yeah, no, I said that. Yeah, he was definitely. Yeah, he was a decorated soldier, and so, but now, and I'm not trying to take away from soldiers. Soldiers, you know, are necessary, right? I'm not trying to, like,
David's time.
You know, I'm not trying to marginalize our soldiers or anything of that nature whatsoever. But the mentality is so much different of why kids join the military now and they go fight. They want to see action. They want to kill. They want to get behind, you know, a 50 or something and just mow enemy down.
Yeah, and you know what's so sad about the whole thing? Let's see. I lost my train of thought. I'm getting too old.
You'll get it back in a few seconds.
Yeah.
You'll get it back in a few seconds.
You know, if I remember it, I'll.
It's starting to happen to me too, Paul.
It's all over the place. I know
it
where
might be like
bunch
some of these
it.
chemtrails or something, huh?
You know that there's several states that have laws on the books right now they can't spray over their state.
Oh, and it's growing.
Yes. It's real.
Yeah. Ruth, they're actually going to sue the federal government if they see the planes overhead anymore. And,
Really?
Yes. And
Yeah, Tennessee's one of them.
There was another one.
Just came up.
I just read it.
Nearby, Illinois or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
There's 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And it's growing. There's petitions out there now to get more states on board with this. So, you know, the DOD has not tried to hide it. They have said what they're doing. Of course, these are toxic metals that they're dumping out of the skies, and they have like adverse effects in the human mind. Chiefly what they do, and that's just frightening, is they dumb down and they placate us. And so when you see frightening things on the horizon, you're not all that alarmed by it. And that's what we see people actually how they're behaving now.
The insidiousness of all of this is that the wicked behind it doesn't care what happens to anybody.
No.
Not at all.
And the willing participants don't realize that they're going to be caught up in it as well.
They're bribed.
They're as deceived as the rest of us.
They are bribed.
Many of us are just plain ignorant, but other people are deceived. They don't understand that what they're doing is going to rebound on them and on their families. It's not going to be limited to who they quote unquote think is the enemy.
Yeah.
That's right.
There's early on when they first started resurrecting this spraying, they rented Learjets, the people that were trying to find out whether it was real or not, and went up and took samples.
Yeah, in the streams.
Yeah, they flew right through the screens, the streams, and the list of stuff that was in the spray goes on and on and on and on. I mean, anything that you'd flush down or burn up or get rid of is in there.
But somebody who's behind this thinks they have control of it, and
Yeah.
they don't. They don't know what's going to happen as a result of all of this.
They don't care.
Yeah, they're
And
just
they don't
getting paid
care.
to do a job. Yeah.
And they're
So-
getting paid good money. They're also getting something that's very hard to get your hands on, and that's jet time to get yourself into the airlines. They'll sell themselves to the devil to get jet time.
Oh,
so
I've seen some of that.
when they apply
That's right.
to get into the airlines as a pilot, they've got all this jet time.
Yeah.
Plus, they were paid for it.
From my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but isn't there like a line? There's a list of people waiting to get on some of these commercial airline jobs.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you know, to be able to qualify with the amount of hours, like he was saying, it's kind of a big deal, you know, because, you know, getting behind a jet's not cheap, you know.
If
So
you're not in the military, it's not a lot of opportunity to get the hours. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
yeah, I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, most of our pilots were ex-military, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and now those are kind of fading away. And so, I mean, you got a civilian market out there now that are trying to get jobs,
Yeah.
fighting over it. So, yeah. All you got to do is hop in this plane, get up to 60,000 feet and pull this lever, fly in a straight line,
And
turn around and come back down.
some of the stuff that I'm thinking about these days, that's because it goes on day and night. That these things are drones. They're just tanking them up and sticking them on a pre-programmed flight level.
Well, you seen that video that went viral, though,
Yeah, what's that?
with that lady confronted that pilot that was spraying.
Oh yeah,
She caught him when he landed with the plane.
yeah,
And she says, why are you doing this?
yeah. And you wonder why the military is the only people that
Brave
are
lady.
doing the spraying. Okay, and now I don't know how controversial this is, to have it go on.
Probably pretty controversial.
Yeah, but most of the aircraft that's being used is military because you can't follow them to their airport.
Oh, well, this lady did. She somehow
Okay?
did.
You can if it's a general aviation airport.
Okay.
You can drive right onto the airport and give them hell.
So I wonder if this individual was, because they've snuck inside these planes and took pictures of them.
Oh yeah, they're on the internet.
Yeah. And so it's pretty well documented. And now they're not even denying it. But barium, strontium, aluminum, all kinds of heavy metals. The
Exactly.
bad stuff.
Yeah, and we're
Bad
not
stuff.
talking music. Heavy
So I
metal.
wonder if God's last day diet was to counteract some of this nonsense. Now we know if we eat like a high plant diet, especially certain
It was parsley that took out the metals.
actually any green
But if they're
cruciferous.
spraying this all over, how is it that our vegetables aren't contaminated with
They
it?
are.
Oh, they totally are. They totally are.
I mean, you wonder how many people are having.
Mental.
Well, dementia and
memory stuff?
Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, not only is the COVID, long COVID, one of the main symptoms of long COVID is brain fog. Yeah, and I had it.
You get it
Still-
from
still with me.
cheese and milk and butter.
Well, so biomagnification. The vegetables have it.
Vegetables.
The cattle feed have it. But if you eat a steak, it's got 10 times more, or 50 times more, 100 times more.
Because it's harder to get out of your
It's
body.
biomagnification, and the fish too, and so everything's contaminated. Now the vegetables and the fruits less, But there's chemicals, there's phytochemicals that God placed in there from day one. He knew this stuff was going to happen. And now we've been given this vegetarian diet. You know, all through the Bible, God's people have been given the type, right? During when they left Egypt, the typology, going through the desert, eating manna, the food that God provided, a flesh-free diet until they begged for quail, and then he gave it to them, and a bunch of them died. These are all types.
Yeah.
Elijah, when he went to the widow, they ate bread. And so in the last day, we've been given a prophet that has told us to eat a certain way. Why? And
'Cause
now,
it's healthy.
all of a sudden, we're coming up with answers. You know, these heavy metals, if you eat certain vegetables, they flush out of your system. And you don't get a buildup like other people do.
Yeah.
And so there's a medicine in these plants, and we need to take God's word. You know, God delivers us, doesn't he? He gives us a way out.
Yeah.
But we got to listen to him. We got to obey.
Yeah. And it's interesting the way Satan sets it up. The more ridiculous it seems, the less chance they are to uncover it. I mean, you're not going to go after chemtrails and the normal population out there and tell them the sky's falling and
Well, more people are learning about them, but yeah, to your point, yeah.
I mean, after a while, they don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Well, here's
You're crazy.
Here's an example of people who are just complacent in the mind. Is this ranch we lived on? They invited this individual that was super sketchy to stay out on the ranch. He was supposedly homeless, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't like this guy from day one, right? I sensed something about this guy. The Chambers weren't very street smart at all. And I wasn't very street smart either, but I sensed something really bad with this guy. We were going to go to church. This guy's truck all of a sudden just mysteriously breaks down. I'm like, Larry, you're not worried about this guy just hanging around having a whole free range of the whole ranch? Because none of us are going to be here. And he goes, no, we're just going to trust God. And so I went over there and I started talking to this guy, and I'm like, so what's going on with your truck, man? And he was fooling with his fuel filter and stuff. I could tell he was just making something up. And so I got to talking with him, became more and more agitated with me. We got into this yelling match, right? Sabbath morning, we're trying to make it to church. And then this guy, and here's Larry and what's the other guy? The big guy, John, great big
bad John.
Just super big and super strong. They're both sitting over there. And this guy says, he gets so mad at me. He's like, I'm going to get my gun and kill everybody. And he starts for his trailer, right? And I thought, well, I'm not going to put too much distance between me and him, because if I need to grab him, if I give him enough distance, he can shoot people. Mm-hmm. So I kind of follow him back to his trailer, and I'm just like right there next to him. And I'm like, well, I thought you said you were going to grab your gun. I said, I don't think it's a good idea to do that. I said, Lisa, call the cops. And then Levi went running up, and he was going to get one of our guns, and it was a mess. But the whole time this guy's yelling, I'm going to kill everybody, John and Larry were sitting over there going, and I'm like, you guys aren't alarmed in the least? And then Chris runs to the house. He calls June. He's like, Curry's trying to fight this guy out there. Not this guy's trying to kill everybody, threatening to go get his gun and kill everybody. It blew my mind.
And it's easy.
It blew my mind.
You see it all over the place now.
The chemtrails were so bad there that we had this like white stuff like that would catch all over the weeds.
Spider webs.
Angel hair.
Angel hair, yeah.
Yeah, angel hair.
Yeah.
It was hanging off the trees, the power lines, and you tell people like, "What the heck is this stuff?" And they're like, "Well, I don't know," and nobody cared. And it was like this complacency that was sickening. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, if somebody walked in this church right now, I'm going to kill everybody. Like, how would that make you feel? It'd be extremely
I'd be diving
alarming.
under the pew, but
like something, right? This fight and flight would kick in immediately, hopefully.
So when I was gathering that stuff in my hand,
Put your mic up.
It made me sick for
Yeah.
like 5 days. I was down like a flu in my bed.
Yeah, actually that stuff, it's like hair. You actually can pull it out of your skin.
Yes.
It's nanotechnology. I've heard they've looked at it under the microscope, and it's nanobots.
Well, it was all gone the next day. It was something like I've never seen before in my life. I've never seen. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It was very strange stuff.
Yeah.
And it was everywhere.
Yeah. It's like a spider web.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nefarious stuff.
Yeah, nobody seemed to care about it. I mean, that's what these heavy metals are designed to do is dumb down people so they don't ask too many questions. You know, you get complacent in the mind. And, you know, and the reason why I know that's what they're designed for is because the documents from Germany stated just that. They were spraying Germany. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. Same chemicals, barium, strontium, aluminum.
Thorium.
Yeah, all of those, you know, very, very toxic metals. Yeah. They were spraying in vast quantities over Europe, parts of Europe, you know, Germany. And when the people were made to go see the death camps, they couldn't believe their eyes. They saw the smoke, right? They heard the stories. The rumors were drifting around. Nobody asked questions. Nobody got excited about anything. They were feeding the soldiers. I just saw a documentary. This was on one of those war programs. Am I going too deep? Is this too dark, guys? I don't know.
We know. I mean,
okay.
Don't need detail.
Yeah, I don't want to get like over the. I have a tendency to do that, so I need to be reeled back in once in a while. So,
yeah.
But they made this stuff called I forget in German. It was like it was basically just butter or something. I don't know how you say butter in Germany or something, but they were rendering down humans to make this food for the German soldiers. You know about that.
Yeah.
And the workers in there didn't say nothing about what they were doing. Like, how do you not get alarmed by that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything that went on. And it's interesting how the devil can get us. It's going to happen again,
People
man.
do a lot of things out of fear. I know that many people cooperated with the Nazis because they feared that their families would be destroyed if they didn't. And the Nazis were ruthless. They would just up and shoot your children or whatever. So people did a lot of things out of fear that they might not have done otherwise. But they also didn't tell what was going on for the same reason.
No. I mean, fear is a great motivator, isn't it?
It is, especially when it's your family that's involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just want to keep it quiet. Don't raise no hackles.
If someone threatens to shoot you, you might go ahead and say something. But if they threaten to shoot your child,
That's a
you're
different
going to
story.
be quiet.
That's a different story. You're right.
And that's the way they worked.
Yeah. Yeah, the devil knows how to get us, doesn't he? And which, you know, maybe the Sunday law is going to look a lot like some of these things that have happened in the past.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
You know, you spray a bunch of chemicals, get everybody complacent, you know, accepting whatever's said, whatever's done.
Good old lithium.
Just kind of go along, yeah. And then you introduce fear, you know, and then strife and all these things that are happening.
Coca-Cola in the past had what in it that people liked?
Cocaine.
Coke.
Okay. How about 7-Up?
7-Up. What did 7-Up have in it?
Lithium.
Get out.
Really?
No, lithium.
Wow.
And what does lithium do for you?
It's basically dumb you down.
Is it in there today?
Don't know. I mean, look at all the stuff that they put in there for sugar substitutes, for crying out loud.
Oh,
aspartame, do you know that's was taken off the market several times because of its psychogenic properties? Aspartame. Yeah. They've got sucralose and all of these other things. There was one, I'll tell you a quick story. One of these sugar substitutes was being worked on by a lab tech, and he was going through third and fourth generation steps in the perfection and purification of this stuff. And it was supposed to be an insecticide. Okay, that's what it was being developed for, as insecticide. He calls up his boss one night. Okay, I got it down to this step, and this is a true story. And he says, okay, test it. He thought he said taste it, and he put it on his tongue. And he says, "Wow, that's the sweetest stuff I think I've ever tasted in my life." And he goes, "What do you mean? You said taste it, right?" "No, not taste it, but tell me about the sweet stuff." And it was in everything that we eat within like 6 months, because it's cheap and it's very sweet and you can put it in anything, and the FDA hasn't seen that it's a problem yet.
Unbelievable.
No. Of course, that's one of the ways that Satan gets us is our diet.
No, he's poisoning us.
Yeah.
He is poisoning us. And it would be well for us to recognize, that and to stay close to Jesus. There's the old guy in Arkansas, he always comes on the comments and says, stay close to Jesus. And he says, old guy from Arkansas. And so I kind of appreciate that guy. But that's as simple as the message needs to be, right? Stay close to Jesus.
Yep.
Of course, education is paramount. We need to educate ourselves. Let's not be dumb Christians. Let's be smart Christians. Let's educate ourselves. Let's not go over the top. There's balance in everything, right? God wants us to stay in the middle lane. There's a ditch on this side. There's a ditch on this side. We can get too wrapped up in these conspiracies.
He doesn't care which ditch he gets you
in.
He really
doesn't. He really doesn't. If you guys notice, we don't talk about conspiracies too often, but we kind of dedicated this program to it. But we don't want to get people too wrapped up in the idea that all this bad stuff is happening, because there's some good stuff happening too. And that's really what God, if there be any good, focus on these things. How does that go? Kindness, love, joy, peace, if there be any other things that are good, focus on these things. And so the Christian is to have good, peaceful thoughts, and not just all caught up on this conspiracy theory. But it's good to hear it once in a while, just to remind what the devil's up to, and not be ignorant and not fall into some of these traps either, right? Because he's going to repeat some of these old methods that he's used. So, but Jesus is going to be victorious in the end of it all. He has a kingdom that's set up that I promise you, it will disappoint no one. And as long as we stay faithful to him, he will continue to transform our hearts and continue to prepare us for that kingdom. Because like we were talking about in the Sabbath school, God is holy. This is a holy God that we're worshiping. Let's never forget that. And he was so holy that the prophet fell down before his face as a dead man when in the presence of God. And so let's never forget how holy Jesus is, but let's always attain to that holiness and that higher plane of existence. We must constantly be in prayer, constantly be in that attitude of surrender, humility. All those attributes are the attributes of Jesus. Thanks for watching, folks. Give us that thumbs up. Subscribe if you guys haven't already. Email me at prophecymontana@gmail.com if you guys have prayer requests we continually offer the Great Controversy, so we're still offering that. And if you guys would like one here in North America, Africa, Australia, and Europe, you guys may have a copy of that. So give us your address and we'll send you a copy. Thanks for watching.